Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and I was always told I had a voice for radio, so today I'm going to be telling you all about Ghetsis, why Ghetsis was banned, and why this ban is awesome. So I brought you news earlier today that 4 cards are being banned in the expanded format. Of course, Ghetsis has rotated out of the standard format. It did a little while ago, so it's kind of a moot point in that regard. And this is wonderful. Ghetsis was my least favourite card in the expanded format. Literally my least favourite card. And it's one of those that essentially reduces a game down to a coin flip. So, the good news is, it's banned, and we do know that the rotation has been confirmed. There is no rotation in expanded. It will still be black and white on. We just won't have Ghetsis. Now, what it allowed you to do is look at your opponent's hand, find all the item cards there and shuffle them back into your opponent's deck, and draw 1 card for each card you shuffle back. It is the worst card in expanded. Now, as draw power, it kinda sucks. You're generally drawing 2, 3, 4 cards most of the time. Playing How would be better as a pure draw supporter. Now, don't get me wrong. There will be games where you draw 10 cards. I've seen it happen. You can get some brutal Ghetsises to draw cards. But generally speaking, it's a disruption card. But it ruins games. You can go first, play a turn 1 Ghetsis, and then essentially your opponent has lost the game there and then. Especially when you've got attackers like Buzzwole and Zoroark that can hit for decent damage for 1 energy and are very easy to set up. If you can get rid of your opponent's item, stop them setting up, and then just use Riotous Beating a couple times, you're going to win the game. And even if you don't lose the game when your opponent drops a turn 1 Ghetsis, you can end up so far behind so quickly that you may as well have lost, and actually it would be better to lose earlier because you've at least got more time for games 2 and 3. Because if we have a look then, right, this gets rid of some huge cards. It gets rid of Ultra Ball. What a lot of us end up doing, because we don't end up having a perfect hand, is we play an Ultra Ball with the first turn, and we grab ourselves a Tapu Lele or a Shaman. And then we use those cards to get ourselves set up. Oh no, wait! Because Ghetsis just got rid of it. There is only 1 card in your deck, but we have Computer Search. Computer Search is wonderful. It searches out any card we like. It gets us a supporter without having to play a Tapu Lele or something like that. But then we end up losing it because Ghetsis comes down. We end up losing stuff like Level Ball and Nest Ball. And okay, these cards aren't going to find us stuff like Tapu Lele to set up, but what they are going to do is make sure that we've got some basics down. Maybe we get ourselves a Remoraid so that next turn we can get an Octillery, and okay, we had a fairly slow start and that kind of sucks, but you know what? It's not the end of the world, because now we've got our Octillery, we're going, oh no, wait, because you're not getting your basics out. The other thing, a really good combo we've got at the moment in the expanded format, is a combination of Battle Compressor and Versus Seeker. Battle Compressor discards any free cards from your deck. Versus Seeker allows you to grab one of those cards, if it's a supporter card, and put it into your hand. So if you can draw those 2 cards over your first turn, then you Battle Compressor a supporter, grab it back with Versus Seeker, and it actually means you can choose any supporter you like. But once again, you're not having to fill up your bench with Tapu Lele, so that's awesome. Oh no, wait! Because Ghetsis is getting rid of it, and that sucks. And that's before we get into anything like, hey, maybe you end up losing Choice Band, which would be awesome for getting a bit of an extra damage down, or maybe you end up losing an Escape Rope, which you really needed to get your optimal Pokemon into the active, etc. There's a million different item cards that could be lost here. But Ghetsis is the best on turn 1. Ghetsis is the most punishing on turn 1, especially if you go first. So really, the most devastating effect of this is just stopping your opponent actually setting up by getting rid of these setup cards like Ultra Ball. Now, there are other options. Maybe you have a Professor Sycamore in hand at the beginning of the game. Or maybe you have a Tapu Lele or a Shaman already in hand. And actually, if you've got Shaman, this could work really nicely. Because your opponent plays a Ghetsis, gets rid of a bunch of random item cards that you didn't want to use, and then when you play Shaman, you're drawing 2, 3, 4 extra cards, making it more likely you're going to draw into those Pokemon that you want, for argument's sake. But generally speaking, if you don't either have a supporter, a Tapu Lele, or a Shaman in hand, or you top deck one afterwards, a Ghetsis will wreck your setup and you'll probably lose. You'll have one turn of top decking afterwards, but you're unlikely to hit what you need, and it's probably going to end up in you losing the game. And the other thing we need to mention, right, it is so easy to find in Expanded. Let's assume you're only playing one copy of Ghetsis, and let's assume it isn't prized, which in 9 out of 10 games it won't be. Now let's say you're playing free Tapu Lele. Now you've got 4 outs to drawing that Ghetsis turn 1, either the Ghetsis or the free Tapu Lele. Then let's assume you're playing 4 Ultra Ball, which you almost certainly will be. Now you've got 8 outs to drawing that Ghetsis. Then let's assume you're playing a computer search, which most people are. That gets you 9 outs to drawing that Ghetsis on the first turn of the game. Now you should start with 8 cards, 7 in your opening hand, plus 1 you top deck on turn 1, out of a 60 card deck. Given that you're drawing 8 cards, and you've got 9 outs in your deck, you should hit the out, you should hit the Ghetsis, if you're playing a 72 card deck. But you're not playing a 72 card deck. You're playing a 60 card deck. Which means you should hit it every time. Now there'll be the odd game you whiff it, but statistically speaking, you should hit this. And bearing in mind here that if you hit this turn 1 going first, you may basically end up winning a game where your opponent doesn't get to play. Those games aren't fun. No one feels good dropping a turn 1 Ghetsis and winning. No one goes, I really beat my opponent. Like, no, they just win. So I saw somebody playing Scizor against Volcanion a while back. And this Scizor player won, and I went, how in the world did you beat Volcanion with Mega Scizor? And they were like, I dropped Ghetsis and Silent Lab turn 1. And I was like, oh, yeah, that'll do it. Just kind of sucks to win that way. Now, the other thing is, it's not actually as difficult to find as I made out. And you might remember, I said it was pretty easy, because I'm only counting having it in your opening hand. That was the sums I was doing. Let's not forget, we've got Shaman, which might be in your opening hand. We've got Oranguru, which might be in your opening hand. Or you might be able to play a Nest Ball and find an Oranguru, for instance, which you wouldn't get you a Shaman or a Tapu Lele. So actually there, I said you should find it every game statistically. That's not including those games where you can play a Shaman or an Oranguru to draw an extra card or two and keep putting the numbers up and up and up. And these cards like Shaman and Oranguru are also very important, because I said at the beginning of the video that Ghetsis isn't a great setup card. Ghetsis is a disruption card, and generally speaking, playing a disruption card turn 1 could backfire, because if you don't stop your opponent's setup and they have a Professor Sycamore in hand, they could end up getting a better start than you. But with cards like Oranguru and Shaman, you're probably going to be able to set up even if you get 1-2 cards off of the Ghetsis, and that's a big problem. Essentially, this turns the game into a coin flip. Winner gets to play a turn 1 Ghetsis and have a huge advantage. You can still win if you're going second, but not only have you got to have a good hand, you've got to have a hand which is good when you ignore any item cards that are already there, and that's not an easy thing to do. Now, maybe if we had a mulligan system like other games, where you can look at your opening hand and take a bit of a mulligan and redo your opening hand if you see it's too vulnerable to Ghetsis, and cards like Magic the Gathering and Dragon Ball Super have those systems, but we don't. So it's a moot point. And look, we've got other disruption options. Delinquent makes your opponent discard 3 cards and a stadium in play, But there's got to be a stadium in play and it doesn't draw you any cards, and your opponent's got to have a small hand for it to really take effect. The thing about Delinquent is, one person can make sure they don't have a hand. You can make sure you've got a hand of 4 cards, including a Sycamore, so your opponent cannot beat you with Delinquent. And if you're playing the Delinquent, you've got to wait for the right time. There's a lot of inherent skill in dropping Delinquent at the right time. You can't really say that about Ghetsis. Team Skull Grunt only gets rid of energy from hand. So people can attach the energy beforehand, and it's just energy you can draw into more. It's nowhere near as punishing as a turn 1 Ghetsis would be. So is this a good ban? Yes. Absolutely. After turn 1, I don't think Ghetsis is that great of a card. There'll be the odd game where you can play it on turn 6 and it will wreck your opponent. But generally speaking, it's not that good. But on turn 1, if you go first, it's dumb. It's over the top, it's overpowered, and it just beats your opponent before they've even had a turn. And that's not fun. That's not enjoyable. Ghetsis makes the game not fun. And if we're not playing the game to have fun, why are we playing? No, ladies and gentlemen, Ghetsis is a bad card and it deserves to be banned. But I want to know what you think about this ban, so let me know in the comment section. Are you in favour of this, or do you think Pokemon should have left well alone? Go nuts, but remember the rule. Be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.